Last session of the day, I'd like to go introduce Chris Kendall, Adam Champion, Fabio Cardenas up to the stage to go speak about AI for the customer lifecycle. And with that, let me hand this off to Chris.
Some brief introductions, but yeah, I'm a solution architect at Twilio, and I'm going to be joined up here by Fabio and Adam. Fabio is president of Sundown AI, and Adam is senior product manager of Google. And so we've got a lot packed into this session. Last session of the day, it's only 30 minutes, but we're going to try and put as much into it as we can. And each of the presenters is going to be looking at a different stage of the customer lifecycle. I'm going to be starting by providing some context about why AI is important and what we're trying to hope to achieve by bringing it into the contact center. But before we start talking about AI, why do we need to consider using it in the first place? What would a perfect contact center look like if we were able to achieve contact center nirvana, if you will? Well, one of the most important measures is customer satisfaction. And so how can we optimize for customer satisfaction? And these are things that at Twilio we've been talking about for a while now. Communicating at the right time, on the right channel, and with the right context. And if we get all of those things right, potentially we can have a really great customer experience. However, the challenge of business today is to do all that is becoming increasingly difficult. Being available on all channels at all times, whenever your customers expect it. And so the cost to serve in that environment is increasing, especially if you're using traditional means. And so, really with customer expectations growing, we're basically ending up with a gap. The ability to deliver is decreasing when you run your contact center in the traditional way. And contact centers are complex, imperfect environments. But they're also a hive of activity. They're generating lots of data and filled with repetitive work in a lot of ways. Lots of glue, both human and technology, to bring it all together. And the neat thing about this is it's actually a perfect opportunity for AI and automation. And so, if we are able to, if AI can deliver everything we want of it, our expectations as designers of these solutions is that we could actually decrease costs and simultaneously increase customer experience. So, sounds like a pretty good deal. However, there's some roadblocks along the way. And really, it's about the human element that's really, preventing you just going wholesale into AI. We still need human agents to create intimacy with our customers. Because intimacy drives loyalty, which drives customer satisfaction. And if you have satisfied customers, they spend more money with you. So, ultimately, the question is not whether we should be using AI, but how do we apply it appropriately while still keeping that human touch? And I suppose another area we should look at where AI can help is around agent productivity. Because obviously agents being such a big part of the cost in any contact center. So if we're able to create happy agents, they'll create better experiences for your customers. And they'll also stay working in your contact center longer. And reducing agent churn, and once again, reducing your cost. And so, in terms of building that experience for agents, this is where Twilio Flex really comes into the picture. As everyone's been talking about today, Flex was built to allow complete customization all the way through the stack, and that's no different for AI. So, AI can be applied at all of these layers. And so, more tangibly, there's a couple of areas where you can focus on. You can focus on AI at these, before the interaction with the agent, by building chatbots, by doing sentiment analysis to, improve routing. And so those are some of the things that, Fabio and Adam are going to be talking to you about today. Other things you can do, you can be using AI for your WFO, as you've seen, with what, Whitaker brings to the table, and other tools, being able to assist agents during the interaction and being able to train your agents better and providing a feedback loop using AI. And so, with that, I'm going to hand over to Fabio to talk to you about the inbound, and following that, Adam will come up. Sorry, Fabio will talk about outbound. Over to you, Fabio.
Hi, I'm happy to be here with you today. I know that I am the last roadblock between you and happy hour. But my name is Fabio. My friends call me Sundown, and I am the CEO of Sundown AI. At Sundown AI, we build and implement machine learning algorithms that are focused on routing. And then we sell our support services. We love routing. But routing is not a very sexy topic. It's not, but it's important. And we actually got started with routing almost accidentally. We had a client come to us and said, Fabio, we have all this data for voice calls. We don't really know what to do with it. Why don't you guys take a look and see what you can figure out? And of course, I love challenges. My team loves challenges. And we started looking at this data, and what we discovered was wonderful. We found out that if we use machine learning routing algorithms, we could actually increase the happiness between the customer and agent pairings without changing any of the front-end systems. So as you can imagine, we're very passionate about algorithms. And I want to share 3 takeaways I hope you get from today. The first one is, number 1, you need to choose a strategy to optimize with these algorithms. Number 2, it's really about optimization, not modernization. And 3, we have provided a very powerful and advanced solution that works with Twilio, and I hope by the end of this session you understand how it fits together. So let's get started. Maybe we can use a little imagination here. Imagine that the left side of the room consists of all the agents, and then the right side of the room consists of customers. Now you agents are calling you customers to, for a campaign. It's going to be to collect debt, right? It's an outbound debt collection campaign. In the traditional process for making these calls, you're actually calling based on the first available agent. The routing is first available agent. It's really random in that sense because you don't take into account the customers or the agent for matching. There's a lot of things you can do to try and optimize this by setting manually created rules, static rules. One thing you could do is essentially create skills, priority levels. You can segment customers based on credit scores or other criteria. You can use demographics or past interactions. As you can imagine, any type of rules that you decide will try to optimize this process will lead to better outcomes. And if you understand how these static rules work, it gives you a clear understanding of how these machine learning models work. What you're essentially doing is you're feeding these models vast amounts of data, and they're making better and faster predictions on how it is you should be doing this. So let me show you how one of this might work. We call it happiness routing. It's called happiness routing because the agent and a specific agent is selected for a specific customer that maximizes the likelihood of happiness. In this case, we take into account several things, but as you can see, each individual interaction between the customer and the agent is going to maximize or minimize an outcome. You can maximize your CSAT or NPS scores, or you can minimize contact time, so it reduces costs. These type of algorithms are known as recommender systems. You probably heard of these before. They're very common with Netflix or Amazon to recommend consumer movies, films, or other products. And usually it's collaborative filtering or some sort of neural network that's used to train these. So at Sundown, we do a few things differently. We take these recommender systems to the next level. We add and take into account intents and sub-intents from your context. We take into account CRM data to understand context. We sequence and sort these calls. We get forecasting information from your WFM system. And it's really all about increasing the amount of data that you can feed these models to make better predictions. Let me show you what this would look like if you guys were calling these customers using this sort of model. On the recent debt collection campaign with 2.8 million customers, or 2.1 million customers and 2.8 million calls, we were able to achieve an 86% increase in accuracy and 30% increase in collection rate. What this essentially means is you're collecting more money in less time. This is optimization. So what is optimization that's different than modernization? There's an assumption that the systems you have in place are giving you the right kind of data, and they're monitoring consumer behavior and consumer interactions, and it's tracking this faithfully. For you to build on top of to build the other features for this model, you need to have the right type of data. To give you an example, we try to build the best time to call model, and we had the wrong data. And we weren't able to find any clear dependencies in the data set, so we weren't able to generate good outcomes. So let's talk about what you need to build a great model for this. One thing is you need a lot of data. We recommend usually 20,000 interactions. That could be phone calls. And it has to be the type of data you're using to make that type of prediction. It has to be relevant to the predictions you're making. You also need to have scale, at least 50 agents. We're essentially replacing the first available agent, but the agent queues needs to be of sufficient size for it to be meaningful. Another thing you need time to implement these models. It's a lot easier to implement these in some of the other algorithms because it's on the back end. You're just optimizing a process. But it still takes time. We usually see 1 to 3 months of tuning. So let's talk about how this fits in with Twilio. There's really 2 components for this, right? There's the Twilio component, which is essentially all the functionality for the customer and interactions, and then there's the model. In this case, you're running everything through Twilio Studio, and it's capturing all information related to the customer's attributes. From here, you're getting this data from either an IVR chatbots to understand intent. You're feeding it to the model. The model is then going to make a determination of which is the best agent to match with that customer. This happens after all the workflow rules that you've set, the constraints are taken into account. It's when the customer goes to the queue, and then from the queue, the agent is selected by sending it to TaskRouter, and then TaskRouter assigns this to a specific agent. From here, the agent makes a disposition or an outcome is created. This information is used to retrain the model. One of the great things about these models is that you can have improvements over time. All right, so let's just quickly talk about some of the takeaways. I know there's not a whole lot of time, but hopefully you got a taste of what these models could do. Essentially, you need to choose a strategy. You either want to optimize to maximize something like CSAT or NPS scores, or minimize something like cost. You want to make sure you have the right kind of data, and then obviously you need to use the right frameworks and systems. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Fabio. So we're going to dive in a little bit into a different part of the conversation. Beyond routing, what's the conversation about? And I lead a group at Google which uses AI to power conversational interfaces. So we'll have a conversation about conversations. And yes, I'm probably the last person you'll see before you get drinks, too. So when we talk about newer types of systems or newer types of UIs, you have to think about where computing has come from in the past. Many of you have built or experienced systems that started with what Google's really well known for, which is the idea of search. Enter a keyword, you enter something that's kind of vague, and then provide the consumer with 10 choices. Whether it's 10 blue links or a single choice, that's the concept of search. And many of you developed mobile applications or graphical systems, where the idea is to present a graphical UI, where you're giving the user a view. And that view can contain products, it can contain help, it can contain information. But again, it's a very singular event. The user is on their own to continue a journey. When we talk about the contact center, or we talk about conversational interfaces, we're talking about something that is back and forth. Meaning the open is how can I help you, in this Ticketmaster example. And the back and forth is, given context and understanding, a true conversation. And historically, computing's had a real hard time with this. Even like the Turing test, if you're familiar with it, is about this particular problem. So the idea of artificial intelligence is about this when it was first dreamed up. And what we need to do when we think about conversational systems and how it applies to what you're doing is make sure that we're having beautiful, enriched conversations with virtual systems. But the other thing we can do is take this technology and apply it to the conversations you're having with agents. So after you've optimized and engaged your systems to get to the right agent, how do we make sure that agent actually has a great conversation as well? A lot of us have had experiences where we talk to virtual systems or we talk to things that look like this. I worked on this. I'm about as pissed off at the phrase, "I'm still learning," that you are. I've heard it probably 1,000 times, and it's not learning fast enough for me. And I guarantee you, these systems, when they fail, are really painful. So on one side, we're seeing consumers want to engage with these types of speakers for things like music or information. But my favorite band is U2. It sounds a lot like YouTube. So whenever I ask to play a U2 song, and it returns a YouTube playlist that is totally random, that's really important and wrong. And imagine if you're taking a virtual system and you're giving the wrong answer to a customer when they're trying to reach you or engage with you at a moment that matters. They're not calling a contact center because something's perfect. They want to buy something, which may be a moment that's happy. They want to complain about something. They want to return a product. These are moments you have to get right. And whether it's talking with a virtual system or having an engaged conversation with an agent, we really need to make sure these are personalized and enriched conversations, and that's the challenge we deal with every day. Our expertise and what we bring to this challenge are helping to understand the user. So we take understanding seriously, not just understanding keywords and not just understanding words, but understanding the concept of intent. And you heard Fabio use that term. And the idea of intent is, what does the consumer really intend to do? What are they trying to achieve? Independent of how they said it or what they said, I think we all have talked to a contact center where we don't really know how to ask the question, but we know the solution we're looking for. And the concept here is we need to provide natural language understanding, both in virtual systems as well as for the agent. The other side is when you are engaging with a virtual system, it's really important that we synthesize speech and synthesize results in a human way. I think a lot of you saw some of the demonstrations over the summer of these types of technologies at our I/O conference, but the idea of synthesizing speech in a human way enables richer conversations with virtual systems. If you sound like a computer, users will treat your systems like computers. They'll ask very short queries with very limited scope. If you sound and engage more human-like, then you'll get deeper and more rich conversations on the virtual side. And we have a significant amount of research to show this. So our mission when we talk about working with Twilio is bringing a set of principles to making things better for the end customer, better for the agent, and then also doing it at an economics and engineering scale that's really good for the business. And if it were too complex or too costly, this last point pretty much would throw everything else above out of the water. And what the specific products that we're engaging on are bringing capabilities around a virtual agent, agent assist, and a concept we call topic modeling. On the virtual agent, this is about enabling chatbots or chat systems like the one you saw with Ticketmaster on the first slide. And the idea here is that we can have rich and engaging conversations in any channel, whether that's by chat or whether that's by voice, and stitching that together with our text-to-speech and speech-to-text. The next element is actually helping agents on the phone during the call. And we'll talk about that in a bit more depth on the next slide. The third topic is the idea of actually understanding all of this data. And many people have significant amount of recordings, or you have the capability of recording and capturing text or speech. But then what do you do with it? What topics are actually being discussed in your contact center? What's the efficacy of those topics? What's the ability to handle those topics either very well with agents or potentially bring them into the virtual side because they're mundane tasks that agents just shouldn't be handling? And that's a product we call topic modeling, which is an analytics and insights product. So if we dive in a little bit to agent assist, this is where we can be really powerful. And it's I think a lot of you have engaged with virtual systems or you've engaged with analytics. But this is the area where we can be really revolutionary. And this is essentially giving superpowers to the agent. So we run real-time NLU in parallel with the agent's call. And during the call, we can provide suggestions to that agent, independent of how well trained they are, whether they started a week ago or they've been on the job for a year, to help guide them through the conversation. And if you think about it, if any of you are launching products or have ever launched a product or are launching one on Black Friday, this also enables you to be responsive to your own business changes. Or if there's an issue in the field, you can update and quickly update these types of suggestions for your agents and essentially not just train your agents, but always have them be up to date with the best guidance possible using our NLU to essentially give them a superpower. We do this through a technology we call knowledge connectors, where we ingest and understand knowledge bases from you and help provide that knowledge to the agent on the fly. And we're pretty good at indexing and searching technology pretty quickly. So this connects to Twilio in a really important and streamlined way. In particular, you're going to see this in a demo in about 2 seconds. We connect and use an interface to connect the virtual agent and the assistive agent in a way that's streamlined and powerful, in a way that enables you to use all the powers of Flex, but also augment them with our AI. And with that, I'll bring Chris onto the stage. Not done yet, but Chris.
So we'll just give you like a quick demo of Agent Assist. So this came out of a customer hackathon ideation session, just to sort of show you what's possible. But but it's really just scratching the surface. So we'll just switch across to Flex. So as you will have seen a lot of today, in Flex you can develop plugins. So we've developed a plugin here for Agent Assist, and it's been deployed into a running instance of Flex. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a conversation with an agent with Agent Assist. And so it's going to be looking for some key topics that get mentioned. And if specific topics get mentioned, then articles show up, are suggested to the agent that allows them to get some more information about how to handle the case and what information to relay to the customer. So with that, let's kick it off. And I'm logged in, which is always good. So I'll just answer that call coming in. Yeah, hi there. So just before we wrap up the call, I just noticed on your file that there is, your insurance policy is out of date. So I'd like to talk you through, how we can update that, and get your insurance up to date. And so what you can see here is there's an article suggestion that's popped for the agent with knowledge, and this is based off the content that was discussed on the call. And so you can see how that's really just the beginning. You could have other AI plugins deployed into your Flex environment, but this just gives you an idea of what you could do with using Agent Assist integrated with Twilio. And with that, I'll hand it back to Adam.
Cool. That's the clap. So what's really powerful about this is that we're able to do all the session management, all the concurrent object maintenance in a way that's streamlined and powerful. And if we look at kind of a state diagram, and sorry for the folks in the back of the room, but we'll go through this a bit. Essentially what you're seeing is that from the Flex UI and Twilio side, essentially we're making a call to create a session in Google so that we understand on our side on Contact Center AI that a call is about to happen. And what we do is maintain a session that goes both through the voice session as well as the virtual agent session. We're able to generate transcripts. We're able to create context that also can cross that entire session and provide insight to the live agent if it does come to the live agent in either voice or in text in chat type systems. So what we're also seeing is essentially we provide a pub/sub mechanism. So depending on the UI that you'd like to develop, we're highly flexible. So that yellow line is pretty important. So if you want articles pushed to your agent to be able to answer questions really quickly, or you want to have the agent be able to poll and pull questions or pull answers, each business looks at this slightly differently. But our APIs are very flexible, and the integration is very streamlined and live and real, and many thanks to the Twilio team for what they've brought to market. But this is pretty powerful and a really flexible Twilio Flex, I guess. So we're really excited by the powers this can enable, the way that you can think about training your agents, and where you think about this going next. We brought this technology live today. Like, we're not talking about AI concepts that are far out there. We're talking about conversational systems, both on the virtual side as well as the augmenting of an agent that are live today. You can actually build these things on stage, and only Twilio does that, by the way. So we're really impressed by that. The ability to simply deploy and simply augment is really powerful. And when you think about training agents or thinking about your ongoing business and product launches, the ability to maintain a knowledge set and give agents those superpowers 24 hours a day in a multi-channel way is really what you should take away from this part. And then from the overall talk, take away how you can use AI to really enable your entire contact center, from the routing to the actual engagement with the customer. You can really do some powerful things in real and transformative ways. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you, Chris. And thank you as well.
And as a quick note, folks, if you'd like to go find out a bit more about Sundown and Google Cloud, we've got Fabio's email address up here, and and Adam's email address up there. In addition to this, we'll be doing a webinar with Google on November 5th, where we dig a bit deeper into sort of the implementation and some more of the use cases of contact center AI, including topic modeler, et cetera. So thank you. And for folks who are leaving the session, which you should probably do since this is the last session of the day, please leave your headsets on the seat. Don't take them with you. And that's it. Thank you.